channel. Today's tutorial is on changing improper fractions to mixed numbers. We're going to dive into what exactly is an improper fraction, and then we're going to get into how do we fix it. This is really important when we're adding. Sometimes we get an improper fraction as our answer, and we need to know how to fix it. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so what is exactly an improper fraction? An improper fraction is a fraction where the numerator, or the top number, is larger than the denominator. Some examples would be 5/3, so 5 is bigger than 3, 10/7, and 16/15. And just so we're sure, a proper fraction is when the numerator is smaller than the denominator. So 1/2, 7/8, and 3/10. These are the fractions we're most used to working with, but often we do get improper when we're adding. Let's take a little visual look at the difference between a proper fraction and an improper fraction. So for a proper fraction, 1/3. The third part is where your whole is cut into 3 pieces. So for example, a rectangle cut into 3 parts. 1/3 would be one of those thirds shaded. So that's a regular fraction, part of one whole. But if you look at 7/3, we're going to have more thirds. This is only 3/3, and 7/3 is more than that. So the picture that I have here has more thirds. It's actually 3 whole, and we're going to see how many it takes to fill up. So if it's 7/3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is 7/3. Now if we look at that picture, we can see that that is 2 whole and 1/3. So the answer here would be 2 1/3. Let's go ahead and look at 4/5. 4/5 is a regular fraction, so it's part of one whole. If I fill in 4/5, 1, 2, 3, 4, you can see that it's just part of a whole. If we look at 6/5, I'm going to need more holes to fill up. So here, we're going to go ahead and fill up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when we look at these, we can see that it's 1 complete whole and then 1 out of 5. So our answer here would be 1 1/5. This is one way to change an improper fraction to a mixed number, but we have an easier way to do it by dividing. Let's go ahead and check that out. So we know that a fraction is just like a division problem. 8 divided by 3. So we're going to go ahead and put this into our house, and 8 is going to go on the inside because our numerator is always going to be on the inside. And then we're going to put 3 as our divisor. Now, the cool thing about this is that you have to fill up your parking spaces, subtract, and then you're just about finished. So if I were to solve this, I'd say, okay, how many times can 3 go into 8? Well, 3 can go into 8 twice. 2 times 3 is 6. You subtract, and you get 2. This is where you can stop dividing. You don't need to add any decimals or zeros. You don't need to continue on. You can just stop here. So what we're going to do is we're going to circle the top number. The top number is going to be our whole number, and we call that the king of the castle. It's on the very top, and it's going to be our big whole number. And then what we're going to do is go around town clockwise. So we're going to go around to our remainder, and then we're going to keep going to our divisor. So circle the king of the castle and go around town. And our answer is going to be 2. That's our whole number, and 2/3. Now, our denominator is always going to be the same as in the original problem. That's a good way to check to make sure that you did it the correct way. So 2 2/3 is the mixed number for 8/3. Let's go ahead and try another one. 14/4. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and place 14 on the inside and 4 on the outside. We're going to put our parking spaces, and then we're going to go ahead and divide. How many times can 4 go into 1? Well, 4 can't go into 1, so that's 0. How many times can 4 go into 14? Well, 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. That would be too high. So it can go in 3 times. 4 times 3 is 12. Subtract, you get 2. Now, we've filled up our parking spaces and we subtracted that last step. That's when you know you're done. You're going to circle the king of the castle and go around town. So I'm going to circle 3. That's going to be my whole number. I'm going to go around town to the 2 and then to the 4. So my answer will be 3 and 2/4. In this one, you might notice that 2/4 needs to be simplified. We always have to ask ourselves at the end of this, does it need to be simplified? And 2/4 is just 1/2. So we need to make it as simple as we can. And our final answer is 3 and 1/2. Let's go ahead and do one more. Here you'll see we have a mixed number. And the reason I want to do this was because we basically ignore the 3 for right now. And we only deal with our 6/5. So I'm going to put my 6 on the inside, 5 on the outside, put my parking space. 5 can go into 6 one time. 1 times 5 is 5. Subtract and you get 1. We're going to circle the king of the castle and we're going to go around town. So it's 1 and 1/5. But you need to remember, if you have a whole number to begin with, you need to make sure that you add it to the whole number that you got when you are fixing your improper fraction. So it's not 1 and 1/5, it's going to be 4 and 1/5. And that's your final answer. You need to be very careful that you don't forget that whole number. Let's go ahead and go over the rules and then I'll give you some practice problems. The first rule is that the numerator always goes on the inside of the division problem. We've done this a lot when we were changing fractions into decimals. The numerator always goes on the inside. The second rule is that you divide until all the parking spaces are filled and you've subtracted your final step. The third step is that you circle the top number, or the king of the castle, and you go around town. Your top number is your whole number, your remainder becomes your numerator, and your divisor is your denominator. Finally, you need to simplify if needed. That's the one step we always need to think about when we're doing fraction problems. Can I simplify this? Here are 3 practice problems. You can go ahead and pause your video, work these out, and then the answers will show up shortly. So here are your answers. The first one is pretty straightforward. The second one, you need to make sure that you simplify your answer. The GCF of 2 and 8 is 2, so you would divide to get 1 and 1/4. And then our last one, you need to make sure you remember to add that whole number to your final answer. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it helps, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!